If you're a real estate wholesaler looking for more deals, how do you get your first deal under your belt, your first couple of deals under your belt in today's market when it seems that everybody's doing the same thing? Everybody's chasing after the same prospects. So how do you stand out? Do you go and try to find other prospects that nobody knows anything about? Or do you try a different marketing approach? So that's what I'm going to talk to you here today about, and I'm going to talk to you about a few things that I find with my students and us personally that is helping us, and I want to share them with you so that way maybe you can get better results. So these are a couple of variety of random thoughts here. I'm a little bit, got a bit of a head cold, so if you know of a good way to get rid of a cold, I always say the best way to get rid of a cold is to give it to at least 3 other people, and then that way they're miserable and you feel better about them being more miserable, and so therefore maybe you'll get over it faster. I don't know. Doesn't work out too well, and then everybody hates you for it. So may not be a good idea. As you know, my name is Chris Chico, and I'm considered the godfather of virtual wholesaling. I always say that. What does that mean? Wholesaling is when you go out and you find a property owner that is looking for to sell their property because they got problems with it. They may have a property that needs repairs. They may have a bad tenant. They just want to get rid of this thing. And you come in and you make them an offer. And now you have a contract and an agreement to buy their property. And then you take that agreement and you go out and find another real estate investor that is looking for that exact type of deal. And then you're going to sell them that agreement. And you're going to make money from that. A couple $1,000, could be $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, just depends. Virtual wholesaling is where you do that without ever having to physically inspect the property, without having to meet buyers or sellers. And you could do that if you're in California. You could be doing virtual wholesaling in Florida. And I'm considered the godfather because I invented it. Nobody was doing that before I was doing that. And a lot of other people are doing it now. Some of them are my students as well. But that's not the purpose of this video here. So what can you do to get better results? So one of the things that I see as an issue right now is that everybody's targeting the same people, which I find problematic, because if everybody's targeting the same people, how are you going to stand out? You know, if you listen to somebody and they say, hey, go out and get the tax delinquent list, but they're saying that same exact thing to tens of thousands of hundreds of thousands of people, then you're going to have a problem because everybody's hitting the same list. Now, you know, somebody could be hitting that list differently. Maybe you're mailing them. Maybe somebody else is cold calling them. Maybe somebody else is text messaging them. But at the end of the day, that seller is being bombarded with a bunch of different investors that are looking to purchase their property. So how do you stand out? How do you stand out? You could stand out by becoming a ninja salesperson, but that's hard, because that takes a lot of practice and a lot of work. And if your business depends on you being the most amazing and lethal salesperson in the face of this earth, that's problematic, because then if you ever want to hire somebody to help you in your business, then you got to look for another ninja salesperson. And ninjas are hard to find because ninjas are doing their own stuff. So how do you navigate around this? Now, I'm going to tell you what you can do to help you if you are for what you're already doing, and then we're going to take it a step further. So I always find that if you're in a fight, then what's the best way for you to win a fight? One is you could be a better fighter. Okay, what's a better fighter? A better fighter is if you are in a fight with a seller and another investor to get the deal, then again you could be a better salesperson. One way of doing of winning the fight is to establish greater credibility. How do you establish greater credibility? One way of establishing greater credibility is that you sound like you know what you're doing versus somebody else. So if somebody else is dealing with a seller and they're mumbling and stumbling and they just look like they just got out of bed, or they look like they just sound really unprofessional, then if you sound like you know what you're doing, if you got a script down, and etc., then you can have an upper hand. And sometimes that's just a simple thing of just having a process down. Hey, Mr. Seller, let me explain to you how we work. We purchase properties all across the country. We don't buy every property. because not every property meets our criteria. What I like to do is on the phone here with you here today is just kind of go over the details about the property, its condition, etc. At the end of the day, we'll be able to make you an offer on the property, and then we could mutually decide if it makes sense or not. If it doesn't make sense, great. If it makes sense, great. If it doesn't make sense, that's okay too. I'm not here to twist your arm or convince you of anything. Does that sound fair? And all of a sudden, if you say something like that, and I just kind of made that up off the top of my head because I've said that so many times, but at the end of the day, having scripts and having things that you can say to the seller help you. Secondly, how else do you establish credibility? What if you have a website? And I have recommendations about websites, which I don't particularly like when an investor gets a website and it's xyzpropertyllc.com. Don't do that. Do something that makes sense. So one of our, like for example, a website that I used to have previously, I don't have it anymore, I switched it, but I want to tell it to you in the video because then you're all going to visit my website. Not that I have anything to hide, but then you screw up my stats. So one was called sell your Miami property today, if I was targeting Miami. So I would say to the seller, hey, Mr. Seller, this is Chris from sellyourmiamipropertytoday.com, and following up about your interest in selling your property. And if you have a few minutes, I'd love to be able to make love to get the details about the property and see if it might be something that we might be able to make you an offer on. Do you have a few minutes? So, coming across professionally with a website, that also helps as well. What about when you send the seller a contract? How do you send the seller a contract? Do you just send them an agreement scribbled and looks like crap, just with hello sign, and it's just a one-pager? What about sending them a contract package that introduces you, has a cover letter that introduces you, gives them a sheet that says, hey, here are all the benefits of you doing business with us. If you're a member of the Flip Anywhere Academy, I have a package in there. We're just going to update that package again. But, it's a, 5 or 6 page document package that then sells them on the contract. Because when you negotiate that price with a property owner, at that point, the deal is not done. The deal is done when you finally sign the agreement with them and they sign on the dotted line, and actually then you have to then sell them through the agreement. And by that, I mean that, hey, Mr. Seller, appreciate the opportunity for you and I to do business together. I'm going to do my best to make this transaction go as smooth as possible. I want to make sure that you don't have any questions. I want to make sure that, do you have any lingering questions or anything else? Is there anyone that in your, that's involved in this decision here that could potentially have some questions or maybe has some reservations about you selling the property? Any objections that we need to make sure that we handle? And so here's what's going to happen is that then when you and I, now that I have this agreement, I'm going to go ahead and send it off to the title company. And they're going to do the title work. They're going to do the title research. They're going to take them about a week and a half. In the meantime, I will have to get my a few people into the property. These are just our standard inspections. Don't worry. I know you're selling the property as is. I know it's going to need some work. You just want to make sure that whatever you stated to us verbally, and is the case, and that you're not that we're not going to go in there and see that there's a big hole in the roof and that an asteroid came right through the house, that sort of thing, right? So you're following through in a conversation. You're having a very professional conversation, letting them know what's going to happen, how it all works, etc. And so again, that's part of good customer service. So that helps you when you're directly in competition with other real estate investors. Now, I said, what's the best way to win a fight? The best way to win a fight is to be a better fighter. But there is a better way to win a fight, and that is to run away. That's the best way to win a fight. Anybody will tell you. If you're martial arts, a long time ago I used to take Kung Fu. I gave that up. Maybe I'm thinking about taking Krav Maga. So that's what I'm thinking about. But the best way to win a fight is just for you to run away. Poke somebody in the eye and then run. That's the best way to win a fight. So how do you win a fight? How can we apply that to real estate investing? Why fight with every other single real estate investor that is out there trying to find deals, trying to go after the same type of prospect? Why fight with them when you can just go somewhere else that there's nobody to fight? And by that I mean go virtual, go into another market, go into smaller markets, go into markets that don't have as much competition, where now you're speaking with the sellers and they are not speaking with anybody else. They haven't been contacted by 20 other real estate investors who are driving for dollars or who are hitting the tax delinquent list or the code violation list or the water disconnect list and all that stuff. That is the easiest way to do that. Another way to not have to deal with competition is by going after other people that investors are not going after. Now, I'm not talking about finding some secret list that nobody else knows about. All the motivation lists are all pretty much found out. However, there is one list that is the biggest list of them all that you're going to have the least amount of traffic. It is the most difficult list to target, and that is the owner-occupied list. Why? Because there's so many of them. With the tax delinquent list, you have a certain number of them. Even with an absentee owner list, you have a certain number of them that you can go ahead and target. So, you have a finite number. But, if I was gonna go ahead and target the owner-occupied list in Broward County, Florida, that list would be like a couple 100,000 people. I can't mail 100,000 people. That's where Facebook comes in. You see, I was gonna get back to Facebook. You're like, Chico, I know you always mention Facebook. The deals that we're finding and that I'm finding with the students that are having success with Facebook is, number one is going virtual, where they're going in and dropping in dropping ads into the entire state. And the majority of the leads that are calling in from these campaigns are owner-occupied properties. They're not on anybody's radar. And so that is another way of fighting competition, where you say, hey, I'm just going to run away. I'm not going to do business anymore here in this particular market. And on top of that, you're going to target a different type of seller lead that would potentially not be in a situation where now they're getting bombarded with a bunch of other real estate investors trying to get a hold of them. And that's what I am seeing. So let me know what you think. Let me know if you have any questions about this video. I'll have a nasty cold. So if you have any suggestions on how I can get rid of this. In the meantime, there might be a video somewhere around here. Take a look at it. Let me know what you think.